welcome to this program, and thanks for always being around. We are still on making cooperative count, and in this particular edition, which is part 2, we will be discussing access to fund. And before we continue, let me once more remind you to please subscribe to this YouTube and share. And please also press the button and like. We want this program to get to as many people as possible. Now, we have identified access to funds as one of the problems challenging cooperative, for which we need to fix in order to make cooperative count. We have to note that one of the long-term goals of financing cooperative is to establish self-reliant financing system for cooperative movement, particularly for our country, Nigeria. There are actually a number of areas through which cooperatives, get their funds. These are all internal sources. And the first there is membership fees, their entry fees. The other is membership subscriptions. Also, when they pay levies, for whatever offenses they commit, and then the aspect of their savings, which is very, very important. There is also internal source of the surpluses as well as their reserves. And then cooperatives, sometimes also get into special development funds, which the members are encouraged to contribute. And then there is the issue of share capital. These are very major internal sources of financing for cooperatives. And these are well-organized funding structures. Whenever societies are focused and committed on their goals, these internal sources of funds are adequate for them. Incidentally, many cooperatives don't have enough funds. That means these internal sources of funding often is inadequate for many cooperatives. And the problem is, what are factors that are responsible for the inadequacy of internal sources of funds for cooperatives? The first we can easily identify is the low volume of their savings. Some members of cooperatives save very small amount. And then there is also low contribution to share capital. When the share capital is low, general contribution becomes low too. In fact, in some cases, quite a lot of cooperatives are not aware of the importance of share capital, and they don't even contribute to that. Incidentally, it is the share capital that makes somebody a member of a cooperative society. And those who manage cooperative societies should be able to tell their members so. Now, some cooperative societies are very few in number. And because of a low number, they are unable to mobilize sufficient funds for what they need. Some cooperatives also lack products and they lack services. And these products and services otherwise should be sources of income for them. Now, we also discovered that some cooperative officials are poorly trained, to manage the affairs of their societies. So this creates a lot of problems. There's also the problem of poor accounting for many cooperatives, and there is also the problem of poor delinquency, loan delinquency control, that we observe in quite a lot of cooperative societies. So with all these shortcomings, in view, what do we need to do? I think that more emphasis needs to be placed on cooperative financing education, as well as in financial regulatory support. We need to do that. Also, I want to observe generally that there are different models of cooperative finance supervision. What we are used to in Nigeria, for instance, is the situation where departments of cooperatives are responsible for supervising finances of cooperative societies, irrespective of amount that is involved. But when the cooperative societies, for instance, register microfinance banks, we find that these banks are licensed by the Apex Central Bank of Nigeria, and they also supervise these banks, microfinance banks. Now, in the case, let's use the example of Tanzania, which is very strong in cooperative practice. In Tanzania, the situation is slightly different. What happens there is that their financial cooperatives, which they call SACCOs, are usually, when they have savings that are that are below 800 million Tanzania shillings, which is roughly 400,000 US dollars. Such SACCOs are supervised by the departments of cooperatives. But when their cooperatives or SACCOs have savings up to $400,000 or 800 million Tanzania shillings and above, they are supervised by their Apex Tanzania National Bank. So this is what the situation is about, and there is no law anywhere stipulating what it must be. Emphasis must be placed on skillfulness and efficiency services. Whatever model that has to be adopted. So my view is that we need to be more circumspect in Nigeria in thinking about how to support cooperative to grow their finances. We need to be more careful about what we do. So those who must support them must have appropriate skills to do so that expected results should be obtained. What we understand is that whoever must supervise must be skillful in doing so. Sometimes we find that some regulators do not have appropriate skills, to play a certain supervisory role. And when that is the case, they must be trained. Regulators also need good training to be able to do good jobs. It's usually not too good when the cooperative societies become more informed than a regulator. It is not too good. So we will discuss more on aspects of the challenges facing cooperatives, particularly with respect to their funding next time, because we think there is so much that concerns access to funds for cooperative societies to be successful. Thank you.